Hello. Today we have with us Tony Dada from Dada Foundation. He's going to tell us a bit more about that shortly. And welcome, Tony. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. Uh,
Well, thank you for inviting me.
I
And
hear you have a very exciting life that you want to share with us. So,
well, let's just say it's colorful. And so, you know, I've had this vision of setting up the Dada organization for about 20 years now. And so, yeah, we are going to journey about. We're going to talk about the journey, right?
okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, first of all, let's start at the top. Tell me what are the highlights of things that you have done over the last few years?
Well, it's more than a few years. So I've been nurturing and empowering and investing in my community for well, this is my 32nd year. So it's been colorful and it's been a journey. I think the question you were asking, like what has been some of the highlights of that? I think that was the question, right?
Yes.
I think definitely one of the highlights for me was a project that I did with the Damilola Taylor Trust back in 2004. And it was an interesting story. I was running my not-for-profit organization at the time, and Damilola Taylor's father just happened to walk past my office. He was lost. I just happened to be in my office thinking about we had some financials, and I was like, it was a tricky moment in time. And he just came into my office, and we started talking. It turns out that he was trying to do a project with the Evening Standard, and he was looking for an organization that could help to do music. And I'm like, hey, I can help you. So we sat down. By the time he left my office, we had a plan. That plan resulted in us being able to raise money for his organization. My organization was also able to get some funding. And the result was we produced an album with the Evening Standard that in one day sold over 500,000 copies. I may even have it here, a copy of it. So for me, that was a really proud moment because we'd been able to raise some money for him and his organization. Sadly, he passed away, earlier this year. But look, here's a copy of it. Oops, that's can you see? Oh, it's a bit tattered, but that's the
Oh, you gave the CD away?
well, back in those days, you had to buy the CD.
Yeah.
You had to buy the paper. So
Yeah.
this was the CD.
Okay. Oh, wow. Urban Voices.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was my
fantastic.
that was my not-for-profit organization.
So, how much money did you raise?
Oh, I think his organization was able to. I think they received something like 80,000.
Mm-hmm.
And our organization, which was a not-for-profit organization, we received uh, a fee, a small fee, which was
Okay.
enough to help my organization through that difficult period. And then we went on to do some other things. But I was really, really pleased with that. And as you see, we had people like Shola Amar, Big Brothers. Who else did we have on there? Lamar, Amy Winehouse on that album. Um,
Wow.
so
Oh, my goodness.
definitely a highlight. And
Okay. So, if people wanted to listen to that album now, is that possible? Is it streaming?
it's very interesting that you should say that because I've put together 3 albums in the time that I was doing my music, focusing on music, and I actually haven't streamed any of them, but I'm actually thinking of doing that this year. So that was one of them. This was the other one that we did, which was this was our very first album, and it was like the best way to describe it. It was like X Factor for the youths on the street.
Oh, okay.
So we eventually, at our highest point, we were running auditions in Birmingham, Manchester, London, Nottingham, and Leeds.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it was sponsored by the Arts Council. We also had we launched one of our projects at the mayor's office in London. It was a great initiative, and so we had people come from all around the country. I mean, thousands of people, and then you go through your heats, your semifinals, your finals, and then you have your winner. So
So were
it's
you doing this before the X Factor started?
yeah. So I started
Oh, so they
not
copied you then?
well. At the end of the day, I've come to accept and recognize that I'm a visionary. So I staged, and that's a good thing, and it can also be quite challenging because people don't get where you're coming from. Does that make sense? So I staged my very first event. Oh, I think it was the 2nd of March, 1992.
Mm.
Yeah. And that was my vision. It was always that supporting our talent, nurturing our talent, investing in our talent, and it was also wanting to give young people a voice because there was a little bit of a challenging backstory behind me setting it up. But once I started doing the project, within 6 weeks, I saw there was a need because the venue that we were using, we ran up to capacity, and then the rest is history. Started to stage these events all across uh, London, working with things like organizations like Choice FM. Remember Choice FM
Yes,
and
yes.
the Voice newspaper. Uh, one of our events. So this became an annual competition. Yeah,
What
and
was it called?
it was called Urban Voice, Urban
Oh, I
Voice
see.
UK.
Urban
Yeah.
Voice. Okay.
I mean, when I first started, the platform was called Singers Paradise, and it was just that, providing it was a paradise for singers because live bands, I would bring together musicians who would learn your song, and you can imagine a singer who's just dreaming about being this artist, and they come to this venue, they come to our organization, and we took care of everything for them. The bands, rehearsals, the venue, um, tickets. It was just a paradise.
So what
So,
made you get into this?
so that's a good question. So, like I said, we have to go back to come forward. So I've always loved music. I've always loved singing. I mean, 40 years ago, I had a little bit of a music career as an artist. And so that
Oh, so
passion,
were you a singer or
yeah, yeah, I was a
musician?
singer.
Did you
No,
play any instruments?
no, singer-songwriter is really
Okay,
my
okay.
thing. And so I had a little stint of kind of singing uh, on the circuit. Back then, it was people like Peter Hunningale, because I'm singing reggae music, and Paulette Taja, that era, um, and so music is my love. I realized as a creative, that's really what I'm all about. But then I went on, got myself a degree in architecture, and uh, was really looking at entrepreneurship. But where it all started was like 40 years ago, where I set out and made, and it's a strange one when I tell people, but I I set out in 1983, made myself intentionally homeless in pursuit of my purpose. That's where the whole journey started, and it was about. I now realize it was a journey of self-discovery, wanting to discover who I was, what my purpose was, what my passion was. That was the driving force for me. So, in answer to your question, I met someone who became my mentor within 6 months of, you know, this great adventure that I started. And he became my spiritual mentor, and taught me a load of things that I just you just don't hear in school, college, or university about life. Yeah. So I've always been interested in spirituality and having a deeper, closer connection with the Most High. That has always been there for me. So we started on this journey, and I was really fascinated about some of the things I was learning, because in those days, it was like what we were being told is that Africa is a third world country. Remember all of those images that we used to see of starving children? Yeah. And here was this young guy at the time, he was 30, who'd come over from Ghana and set up this organization and was teaching people about different aspects of Christianity and spirituality that I'd never heard before.
Oh.
So that was how the journey kind of started. And then
Would you
10
like to
years,
give his name? Is he still around?
yeah, he's still alive.
What's his name?
Brother Ishmael Tete is his name.
Okay.
And still around. He's still my mentor till this day.
Oh, fantastic.
So I go to Ghana, regularly. In fact, the very first time I went to Ghana was in 2010, and I met him. I took a friend of mine, Jamaican friend of mine, who we landed in Ghana on his 50th birthday. But then we also met a bunch of people from America. So I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Beckwith from The Secret, The Law of Attraction.
No.
It's I'm sure some of your viewers and listeners will be familiar. It's but yeah, so we met in Ghana, and I've continued to go back to Ghana because it's just a beautiful place as people are beginning to discover. So, um, but then coming back to the story, so then 10 years down the line, I became homeless in one day again for the second time. And in that day, I lost everything, including access to my children. And
Oh,
that was that was a very, very difficult time. But it was, now when I look back at it, I realize it was probably the most important period on that was probably the most important day of my life. I don't know if you've heard, they say there's a saying that says that the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you wake up to why you were born.
mm,
Yeah. And I think for me, I woke up to why I was born, because I realized if you can just lose everything that you have in one day, like, then it made me think what's really important. And I was angry about the fact that my children didn't really have any say or input in that whole process. And that's where the vision for wanting to make a difference came into mind. Because,
okay. Can I just halt you there a little? Because I
yeah,
don't want to skate over this because, it could be learning exercise. So
okay,
you were in a relationship with the children's mum
yes.
and you split up suddenly. Did you see that this was on the cards, that it was
No, so
coming?
we didn't split up suddenly, because and I trust Dawn to say, hang on, let's back up a bit. I don't want to miss no juicy bits. So, and it's something that's I still think about, and it's something that I want to address it within our community, because I find that this is actually still happening, and I'm dealing with a case right now. But no, literally, I'd gone away for a weekend. I came back, put my key in the door, and the door was locked. And so
What?
I'm like, hang on, the door's not opening. I'm knocking the door. I'm like, what's going on? I'm out there for about 10 minutes. Next minute, I know I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and there's two police officers saying, oi, mate, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to get in. They're like, well, we've just had a call from the lady in this house saying that she doesn't want you here.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So it wasn't even a breakup. When I say it was like, and I was in my 20s at the time, it was just horrendous. Like, I thought it was a joke, but clearly it wasn't.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's why I say it was a turning point, because you could just imagine. I mean, had been together for 7 years, two children. My son at the time was about one, and it was devastating. Like, without a doubt, the worst period in my life. But the good thing was, thankfully, because of my spiritual mentor, he made me aware of something that, thank God, this thing that he'd said just came to my memory. on occasion, and he said, "It doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is how you respond to
Yeah.
what happened to you."
Yes. Yeah.
And so I really held on to that, and it made me. I came to an awareness. I thought, I've been rolling with this guy for 10 years. In the strangest of ways, what if this was life's way of putting me to the test to see how I would respond to this? Like, would I just, you know, fall and just descend and, into nothingness, or would I rise from this? And so that was what I decided to do. I decided to rise. And that's the story behind me setting up the not for profit organization, because I was angry about the fact that our two children didn't have any say, didn't have any voice in the matter. So, can you see the reason behind the title? My organization was called Urban Voice. The Voice, an organization that gave people the opportunity to voice. And of course, because I was a creative and a singer, I use that as a healing balm for me. Are you wiping? Are you shedding a tear?
No, 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 no. I'm just hot.
Because when I tell the story, some people are very emotional about it. But for me, it was a healing balm to set up the not-for-profit organization, and I channeled all of my energy, my anger, and my frustration into that. Things got better eventually down the line, in that I was able to begin to see my children, and then all wasn't well in that area in terms of my children were being separated. So eventually I had to file for custody, and eventually secured, was able to secure the custody of my children and then raise them as a single parent.
Okay,
So
good,
yeah,
good.
so all was good in the end.
Yeah. I think the lesson in that is that sometimes when you really feel your rock bottom and nothing can change your situation, if you just wait a while, it could be a few weeks, months, maybe even years, things turn around and turn
Well,
around for
I
the
hear you.
benefits.
I hear you, but I think I would add to that, rather than waiting, because probably if I had waited, I would have done something distressing to myself. And so, what I encourage people is that, the mind is a very powerful thing if we understand how to use it. You know, and my mentor, thankfully, had given me some insight as to how to use it. So, rather than waiting, I think it's about creating a vision,
Yeah.
yeah, of what you would like your tomorrow to be. And so I didn't know how, and I didn't know the means, but I created this vision of me being able to have a relationship with my children. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And then I began to do everything in my power that would enable me to have that. So, you know, that was the thing that was then able to manifest eventually. I mean, it took 7 years before I was able to have full custody of both of my children. But
Okay.
I never gave up. I never gave up hope, and
Okay.
I never gave up
Well,
that vision. So, if we want to use this as a learning thing for young people, I would say nothing is more powerful than the vision that you decide to hold and nurture.
and strive
Any
to
adversity that
making it
comes your
happen.
way, that vision can withstand and help and pull you through.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so how long did Urban Voices last?
So we ran for, I think there was various forms. So we set up as a not for profit in early 2000s, and it went on for about 10 years. In that time, we were able to raise close to, I think, £2 million that we were able to employ into and supporting young people. And for me, I love telling that story because, as I've just shared, the beginning of the story was I didn't have any money. I just had a vision, and yet within a few years, we were able to set up as a not for profit organization and get support and received support from so many institutions.
That's amazing. Well
Yeah.
done. £2 million is not to be sneezed at. That's fantastic.
Well, and we're talking about, 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Well,
And
you could write a book just on that. How you
oh,
raise £2 million for a
oh,
non-profit organization.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. We
Or have you
definitely.
written the book already? You just haven't told us.
I've written a book already, but it's not on that subject. No, no.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So that's your next book then, yeah?
yeah. That's I've got a couple of books in the pipeline actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So,
Well done.
but yes, so setting up as a not-for-profit. However, I think for me back then, again as a visionary, I realize now that when you're a visionary, you're ahead of the time, and it sometimes comes with challenges. So back in those days, as a not-for-profit organization, the challenge was you couldn't even be a director of your own company. Sounds crazy, yeah, back then. And so, just to put it into context, so I had to, although I was the visionary, you couldn't be paid and be a director. It was just a mad thing. So, I had to create, I had to have a board of directors, and then if I wanted to get paid, I had to play a role within the services that we were delivering. I
Yes.
mean, it was just crazy, and it was as a result of that that the government then created CICs,
Yes.
community interest companies, because they saw that there was loads of people like me who wanted to make an impact, wanted to make a difference, but couldn't do because of the way it was set up.
Mm.
So a CIC is kind of like a hybrid
Yeah.
between a charity and a limited company. And as the visionary, as the founder, you can get paid.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
But uh, I found it challenging at that time, as I said, being ahead of the game. And then we also had one experience, and this is why for me, I'm like, it's really important that you hold on to your vision, because we had a program that was that we were delivering across 3 years. It was a £500,000 program, and at that time it was the largest program that we delivered. And I noticed this thing that as we were getting more and more funding, the goalposts and the criteria was becoming tighter and tighter, and I wasn't really comfortable with that. But on this particular program, we delivered the program successfully, and then at the last submission of our accounts, just because there was a slight error, and that error was my director of programs submitted the accounts, but she didn't run it past the accountant. And so as a result of that, she hadn't included the VAT. The VAT was about £40,000. And so the way that funding worked, certainly back in those days, we had to spend the money, submit the accounts, and because it's public money that we're dealing with, they go through our report and then they reimburse us. Can you believe what happened on this occasion? We submitted the report. I realized the next day that she hadn't added the VAT. We contact them, call them up and say, oh, can we just add the VAT element because this was overlooked? Do you know that they never paid it?
Wow.
So after delivering a £500,000 program of service to our community, and this program was a fantastic program. It took young people across London. We had a deal, a relationship with the job centers right across London, where any young person who wanted to go into music was able to come onto our accredited course. It was an edXL qualification course. And then after doing that program with us, we're able to then go into college to then do a full qualification. So here we are, we're delivering this service. And then at the end of 3 years, we, for no fault of our own, have a hole of £40,000.
Mm.
Not nice, is it?
No, no.
So that's when I decided that, you know what? I think I'd rather have a limited company, and my vision became I want to be able to do this and we control the purse strings so that we, because it put me, and as the visionary, I took on that liability. It was, again, not a nice time.
Oh, yeah. So, oh, that
But it
sounds
shows
a hard
and
time.
I share it because it's the challenges of business. When you have a vision and you want to be of on purpose, it comes with challenges, and those challenges come to test whether you are really committed to your vision.
Hmm.
So we bounce back.
Okay. So tell me, in terms of artists that you work with, tell me some names of those you worked with, perhaps from the start, and who might have gone on to success later on. Tell us about that.
Well, if you think about it, from, as I said, 1983, my thing was really about providing platforms for artists, for musicians, for comedians, to hone their skills and to develop their talent. So there's been a bunch of people that, and some of them you might know. I mean, in terms of singers, a young Mega Man from Soul Solid, Swiss, Tiny Temper, JLS, Alexandra Burke. I mean, there's just been, it was at one point in time, it was the platform that artists wanted to use to develop their skills. And comedians, Richard Blackwood, it's just Gina Yashere, Rudy Liquid, just a bunch of people, you know.
Oh,
So it was
did you
fantastic. And
help nurture them before they became a big name?
well, yes, we did. I mean, the biggest investment was in 2006, I think it was, where we, by this time, so from setting up platforms, I realized that I had this talent for being able to see. I had a talent for seeing talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And developing that. And so it was growing over the years. And so I set up a record label. Obviously, this is what I produce on the record label. But then I also did a project with a group that won one of our competitions, and that was quite a great moment because we produced an album. But as part of the project, I was able to secure a deal with Island Records, and so this was the second album. It was an EP called, well, it was a group called Roots Conquest, and it was just conscious music. And what was cool about that, Dawn, imagine, here I am, just a young guy on a council estate with two kids, that I'm raising as a single parent and just trying to do my thing in the community. And Island Record, as part of our prize, I'm secure a deal where we're recording in Bob Marley's in studio that Bob Marley recorded at Island Records, and we
Nice.
produced this album. So I wanted to get the guys signed. We did the album, we played it. I realize now they were never going to sign it because it was just too conscious, and they just wanted to make their money. And I'm not saying that to in any kind of negative way. It's 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 a business, right? So they want to see product that they can sell in volume. And conscious music back in those days, like 2002, I think we were looking at, it would have appealed to a market, but not a sizable market. So we
Okay.
had the meeting, and they were like, "No, you can keep the masters. You got your track, but no." And so I decided that I was gonna push it myself, and so we did. We kind of did our bit in terms of making sales and selling it, but it never really took off in any kind of big way. But it was great nevertheless. Whereas JLS, that project, we probably invested close to 100,000 in that project.
What?
As I say, well, yeah, because it was like like I said, it was like Xfactor. We launched it at the mayor's office, and we had auditions all around the country: Birmingham, Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds. The uh, we brought some of the finalists down to London for a week. We hired a house, had a team of staff that taught them media training, interview skills. We did interviews with One Extra to show them how, live. It was the real thing. Photo shoots, recording sessions, the whole bang. And then we did the finals at the Indigo too. So when we were one of the first not-for-profit organizations to be doing that kind of thing, we were just,
This is in the O2.
yes.
Okay.
So it was a big project. So JLS came through that process. And so my whole thing back then was, right, okay, I know how this goes because we've been doing this for a while. So signed them to my label with the view that we would then have 12 months to record an album and then we'll release them. And can you believe that they shafted us and went into Xfactor? So they signed a contract with us. And the year that they went into Xfactor, you were not allowed to have a contract. And nevertheless, they did. And when I went to try to address the matter, you know, it, I just didn't have enough money to take the matter to court.
Oh, wow.
Sony Music actually wrote me and asked me if I would release them from the contract. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll release them if you pay me. But I just didn't have the money to fight it. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
After
So,
you worked with them and trained them, you basically found them, took them to a stage where they were practically X Factor ready.
absolutely.
And
That's
they never
exactly
look,
it.
did they ever look back and say thanks? Oh my goodness.
So this is some of the stuff that we have going on in our community that we need to address, because for me, take me out of the equation. The thing that for me was really disheartening is when we did the concert at the Indigo 2, you can imagine it was filled up with youngsters from all across London. You know, I'm talking about, man on road kind of guys, yeah, who saw this as an opportunity. Like they were into their music and they could see how I'm showing them how if you do things the right way, this is what can happen for you. So to see what happened in terms of JLS's move, one, they denied us, certainly took the heart out of, from my point of view, of wanting to create this legacy for the next
Mm,
group, every year, because it would only have got bigger and better. And so I'm like, if this is the result, and the industry is a shady business,
mm,
if this is the way that things go, it just was very disheartening for those youngsters. And they were like, well, if you're getting treated like that, what chance do we have?
mm,
And so for me, that was the bit that really was disheartening, that they would just make that kind of move and like, we're good. And they went on to make 20 million.
mm. Oh wow. So even to look back and say, look, here's 20,000, a gift or whatever,
No, it's a business. And it's funny. I've seen a couple of them since on occasion. There was one I was at, I went to see, it was a Beyonce concert, and we were in the VIP lounge, me and a friend of mine, and one of them walked in, and you could he nearly froze. Well, he actually did freeze because
Really?
we hadn't seen each other in years. And my thing is, look, I know that karma is real. Yeah. So that's all I have to say.
Did he come and say hi and thank you or?
He said hi. At first, he didn't. he acted like he didn't remember or recognize me.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
was like, and then I had to bring it up. So, I've got a lot of things to share when the time is right. I've actually got about 7 hours of footage of that whole process of us working with them, because I saw one of them, Arisha, I think it is, and he complete amnesia, like he don't recall anything. I'm like, really?
What?
Um,
Well, it's a good job you have video evidence and photos.
well, it's just when it's necessary to share, then we will do. But uh,
So the event you had in Indigo, that is all filmed, yeah?
unfortunately, that we don't have.
Oh, okay.
We that we don't have. That got lost. We've got little clips, but for the main part, that we don't have. But everything leading up to that, the auditions, the heats, the
Yeah,
time in the house, the
yeah.
training and stuff like that, we have. Yeah,
Wow. How could people do that?
easily.
You spend months and years with someone who's nurturing you, teaching you about the industry, and then later on you pretend you don't know them.
Yeah,
That's
but that is
horrible.
that is the music industry, and I think you'll be surprised. There's a lot of stories of artists that and like, and if you were to know actually what went on behind the scenes, you'd be surprised.
Hmm.
So, so that was one of the reasons for me why I was like, I needed to review this and take another look at this. And also, I mean, my children were like, Dad, you need to be out of the country. Like, you're not appreciated here. You should
Oh.
just leave. And funny enough, around that time, both of my children did up and leave. So my son went to Minnesota to study, and my daughter went to Nigeria to pursue her career. And they were saying to me that I should leave the UK, and I was actually thinking about doing that. And then I had this encounter where I can only describe it as a kind of spiritual encounter of stillness, and through that encounter, where I thought I was just going to leave the UK, what came to me was that actually I wasn't to leave the UK, that I would continue doing the work. And I realized what that was now, because it's like, if I had been derailed by that incident, then really what it would have demonstrated is that that was the main reason why I was in it.
Hmm.
Do you see my point?
Hmm.
Whereas what I've come to realize is, if you're on your purpose, you're on your purpose,
Hmm.
irrespective.
Yeah.
So January 2013, I came back. When I say came back, because I moved away just to have some period of quiet.
To
To then,
where?
well, it was only West London, but for me, that was like,
Okay.
but it was a period of silence, and and it was a period of stillness. So I actually had no friends, no family come visit me. I mean, it was a little bit, strange. It was a spiritual encounter, and through that stillness, I just got clarity about the next phase of my life, which was what I'm doing now. And so January 2013 is when I came back, and we began this work. And the work was really about nurturing, empowering, and investing in people who have a talent. So it wasn't just creatives, because I came to realize that that skill, that blessing, was not just for creatives, but it was for all kinds of people. And so that journey began in 2013, and that year I met up with NatWest Bank, and I was still doing work with young people. They saw what I was doing, had a conversation with just a passing conversation with one of the senior members, and he said to me, I love your passion for young people. Um, can't give you any money at this moment in time, but you know what? I'm happy to give you any kind of support, access to our buildings, for you to do events. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll take it. And that was 11 years ago, and they're still here. Our conference that we're doing in September is sponsored by NatWest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about the conference in September. What's that about?
So that is the vision behind that is really bringing together what I refer to as conscious entrepreneurs. So you probably have noticed over the last 10 years, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, right? But what I've realized is that there's different types of entrepreneurs. So the JLS story, that's not a conscious entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Would you agree?
Well, yeah, that was more about fame and making money, wasn't it?
Right, absolutely. And so I make that distinction. So
Okay.
for us, the conscious entrepreneur is the individual who is driven by their passion. So it's a head and heart connection
Okay.
of wanting to make a difference in the community, wanting to make a difference in society, and but recognizing that the work actually starts with you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that work is you becoming aware of your gifts, your talents, your abilities, you becoming aware of how you can develop them because just having gifts by themselves ain't going to get you nowhere. You have to, and this is the acronym. So discover your gifts, your talents, uh, your aptitude, and then do the work in terms of developing them, harnessing your skills, creating a product, creating a service, and then actualizing, meaning setting it up as a business or a company, manifesting it as a service or product for which people will pay you, and then having a sustainable model. So that's really what our whole thing is about, helping people to make that journey.
Hmm.
So the conference is our way of bringing people together. Last year we did the first one and it was a great success, and so we're doing it again. And this time round, we've grown in that we have people coming from Colorado and Montreal as well as London.
Amazing. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So the intention is to create that space for conscious entrepreneurs to learn how to connect, how to navigate three themes, and those themes are business, money, and you.
Hmm.
So we know that business is challenging, and in your business, there's that saying that money is king. So knowing how to navigate your finances, and then the third element is you, which is all about the personal development. So business, money, and you. And the whole idea is to have our speakers and panelists really talk about those three themes in a way that will bring some insights to people, how you can grow your business, how you can grow your money, how you can access money, and most importantly, how you can do the work on yourself continually so that as you grow, the business grows and not the other way around.
Okay, so the organization called Dada, you
Yeah.
said that Dada is an acronym. What does the letter stand for then?
So, as I mentioned, so D is discover, A is aptitude, D is develop, and A is actualize.
Okay,
So
okay,
we discover our gifts, and another word for gifts is aptitude. So discover your talents, develop them, and then actualize them in terms of giving them as a gift to your community, your society, in the form of a product, a good, or a service.
okay.
And so people start off from a personal point of view, but then as they do the journey and discover more and more of what they can do and their abilities, then what we found is that people then move into the whole business space of wanting to start a business.
Okay, okay, great. All right, so I want to step back to the beginning. Tell us what kind of child you were. Tell us a bit about your upbringing, your education, and even before you hit your 20s, what were your aspirations?
So architecture was my thing as a youngster. Hence the reason why I went and did an architect's degree. Uh, Even though I'd left home, being of African parentage, like you have to read your book, as they say. You make sure you read your book, or else you
Which
get in
which
trouble.
country in Africa?
Nigeria,
Okay.
yeah. So, but it was a very challenging time around the 60s, certainly in South London where I was living, because there was lots of challenges between Africans and West Indians. And so there was lots of beef, like gang warfare and stuff like that. And so
Were
I,
you born here?
I was born here, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was challenging in that sense. So because for me, I was having being in a minority within a minority, because there were not many Nigerians,
Yeah.
certainly in South
At that
London. So
time, yeah.
at that time,
Now,
so
now of course, they're everywhere.
yeah, yeah. What can we say? So that was so for me. It was challenging at school. It was challenging on the council estate, and then it was also challenging at home because my father had come from Nigeria, and as far as he was concerned, I was the oldest. I should be eternally grateful for what I'm experiencing. But of course, I don't know anything else. Yeah, so there was that that kind of tension at home, and it was all of those reasons really that led me to the point of saying, you know what, nah, I need out. I need.
Oh,
There wasn't happiness around me.
okay. So you left home early then, huh?
Yeah, so that's the main driving force that made me, say, right, I need to go and create my own thing and discover what life has.
Mm.
And yeah, so I set off on my adventure.
Okay.
And what an adventure it's been.
Yeah, of course. Now, at one point, you said you were being mentored by a billionaire. Tell us about that. How did you come across this person?
You know, what I have found is that life has a way of just bringing you what you need when you set clear intentions. Yeah. So I I say that to say that so I've been working with my spiritual mentor for decades, and through my not-for-profit organization and various other projects, my whole thing has really been about how to empower people. But meeting Errol, it was just by chance. I went to an event, and this is why I say to people it's really important that you invest in yourself. And people say it, but what I found is saying it and actually doing it, is there's a stark difference. So I went to an event. It was a 3-day event, and I must admit it was really quite expensive. It was about 2 grand, and it was the first time I'd spent that kind of money on a 3-day event.
Hmm.
But I'm glad I did, because there was about 400 people at this event, and people had flown in from different parts of the country and abroad. And there was, as a keynote speaker, there was a gentleman by the name of Derek Redmond, who you might know, the athlete, the young guy who, he, back in the day, he was running the 4x4, and then he got a cramp on the track. He was in the Olympics, and then
Hmm.
his dad came on to help him. Do you
Oh,
remember?
yes, yeah.
So he was one of the speakers, and then this gentleman, Errol Abramson, was also one of the speakers. And I sat on their table, and we just got talking and struck up a good vibe. We exchanged emails, and I left it, after the 3 days. We'd exchanged emails a couple of times saying, how you doing and stuff. And then a year later or so, he contacted me, sent me an email and said, Tony, I'm planning to come to the UK to do an event. You know, how you doing? And so we just started communicating from there. And then we went on to Zoom, started having a few conversations on Zoom. And then one day he just turned around and said, Tony, I like you. I'm going to start mentoring you. I'm like,
That's
Really?
lovely.
Yeah. So it was great. It's we had some really great sessions, and he allowed me to record them. So I've got some really great recordings of our conversations. We became friends at the end of the day. When he came to do that event in London, I was able to support him and actually make it happen. Um, yeah, so but he taught me some things about business that I needed to learn. And
Okay, so what was his business? How did he make his billions?
well, Errol had run a total of 47 businesses, all of them
Oh,
successful. Yeah,
47.
yeah. 47. He was he's based in Canada, not here in the UK. And he was just a serial entrepreneur, 47 of those 40, and that's over a period of 50 years,
Yes, yeah.
right? Yeah. And four of those he had turned into $1 billion turnover, annual turnover.
Mm,
So he had done great things, but he was, I think he was in his late 60s. He'd retired now, and I think he'd got to a point where, as we all do when you go through life, where he was reflecting on what he had achieved, and what he'd come to realize is that he wanted to give more to ordinary people. He was no longer interested in corporate business because there's all kinds of politics that go on where that's concerned. His vision and his belief was that the world was going to become a better place through ordinary people taking up the spirit of entrepreneurship. And so that's where he turned his focus. Hence the reason why he was prepared to engage with someone like me, because
mm.
I'm just like the average person.
So did he invest with you financially as well as give you time?
No, he didn't give me money. Like,
Mm,
he's a shrewd businessman, no. But he gave me time, and I valued his time.
mm.
Yeah. Because we were having a conversation, you and I, not so long ago, and we were talking about this whole thing where, you know, when you say to people, what would you like, money or time? A lot of people would say, well, give me the money. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, well, if given the choice, as where Errol was concerned, I saw the value in the man. Yeah.
Mm.
So I didn't ask him for money. I just,
That's very important. You didn't ask it. For whatever reason you felt it was wise not to. You rather spending the time getting to hear his wisdom because you felt that would take you further. Am I right?
well, yeah, he offered to mentor me. And I knew that of the people that he was mentoring, everyone paid him. I was the only person that he didn't ask.
Oh, wow.
So I recognized what that was. And as I say, we became friends. I mean, we had conversations, I think, every 2 weeks for about 3 years.
Oh,
So there's wisdom that he gave me, and I could see, uh, I gained some insights that helped me recognize and realize that if I was going to make the impact that I wanted, um, I remember, because at the time I was trying to, I was, I say trying because I was clear on what my purpose was and the vision, but how to actually execute it. I didn't want to have a not for profit, and what he made me realize is I was still kind of running a charity, like I was funding it. Yeah. And he was like, Tony, that's a wicked thing you're doing. I never forget when he said that to me. I'm like, what you mean? He said, if what you have, you can see that it really has a benefit for people's lives, then you have a duty to expand it and have more impact.
oh,
And I'm like, wow. And
oh,
so from that day, we've, begun to, I've changed my view. And the view really is to balance the two things, to balance wanting to invest in people, nurture people, but at the same time, making sure that you have a business that's viable. and sustainable.
Do you feel that the advice you got from this mentor was different to other advice which is out there, either on social media or
Oh
books
yes.
you've
I
read? Do
mean,
you think it's
I
unique?
of course, the thing is, I laugh when people say to me, "Oh, well, there's loads of information out there on social media." I'm like, but don't you get it? And unfortunately, this seems to be a common attitude in our community. I had a conversation with someone just 2 days ago, and we are having the same thing. Oh, I showed her our leaflet for the conference, and she said, "Oh, it's £69. I can get it for free on the internet." I'm like, in fact, I'm like, "Can I have my leaflet back?" And I'm gone. I'm not even having the conversation. And let me put it to you like this: I knew from when I was young that I loved architecture, right? And so I want to learn how to build buildings. Am I going to go on the internet and go and find all the information that I can
Mm,
to learn about architecture? Or am I going to sign up and pay my money
mm-hmm,
and commit 3 years to an institution where I can learn it in the proper way and get my qualification?
mm. Yeah, I hear you.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You
So
pay nothing.
what I'm now wondering, therefore, is how are you? I know this helped you to make you the person that you are, but are you going to be sharing some of this information to help others to pass
Well,
it
that's what the
on?
conference is about.
Okay.
That's what the conference is about, and that's what the organization is about.
Okay.
We have a number of different courses that we offer.
Okay.
We also have a scholarship bursary scenario of 100,000 every year, based on the story that I told you that what happened to me. So one of the things I've recognized, certainly in our community, is that we have this misconception about value
Uh-huh.
in terms of what is important to, what value do we place on things. So I think we shouldn't discount things. Like if you just said you wanted to get your laptop repaired. When you went to get your laptop repaired today, when he told you how much it was, you didn't say, "Oh, can you give me a discount?" You just paid it because you knew
Yeah,
the value of it,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So we do the same thing with our courses, but I also know where I came from. Yeah, I came from a council estate. I've been homeless. So if someone meets our criteria and there's a course and we see that that person meets our criteria and can't pay the full amount, we will subsidize it.
Entrepreneurs or trailblazers, how would you advise them to make it big, to dream bigger and to go after their aspirations? How would you advise them? Give them some practical tips.
So the first practical tip that I would say is find yourself a coach or a mentor. So you've heard my story, and I stumbled on my first mentor. I didn't appreciate that he was my mentor and coach for many years, which because we just had that relationship. I'm talking about 4 years ago. But it's about being conscious of your vision. So the number one thing, and that's what we teach and show people how to create what I call a grand vision, not just a vision for your business, but a vision for your life. And so there's 5 areas that you want to take care of, that you want to have in your vision,
Mm,
of which when you've got that grand vision, then I would encourage a person to find a coach for each of those areas. Just the same way how if you want to take care of your health, you go and get a personal trainer. Yeah. In the same way, if you want to establish a business, find a business that is run by someone who you admire and see if you can have them become your coach, or find a coach that can take you on that journey. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And if
So,
you can pay for it as well, don't assume that everything has to be free.
well, no. Okay, let me clarify. When a true coach, you pay for. So, let me put it to you this way: my spiritual mentor, yes, he's my mentor till this day, and has been for 40 years, and he's never charged me. But for 40 years, till this day, I contribute to his organization.
Okay.
Do you see my point? So there is an exchange. By spiritual law, if you are just taking from a mentor, that's what you're doing. You're just taking. And life doesn't work like that. By spiritual law, there has to be a balance. I mentioned Errol. He didn't charge me. But guess what? When he wanted to stage his event, it cost me. He didn't want to come and do it. I said, no, I'll take care of it. I will help you, because he was finding it difficult. By the end of that event that we staged, I brought my team on board. We marketed it, we promoted it, we did a website. At the end of that event, I wrote him a check, because we were able to bring more people to his event. So the first rule I would say to people is recognize that by spiritual law, everything is a balance. If you are just taking from life, you're stealing from life, and you can't steal from life. Life will balance the scales. So if you have an opportunity, I would say lead with paying, because when you pay a coach, what you're demonstrating to life is that you believe that you are worth investing in. You're investing in yourself.
Mm.
You can't invest in yourself. How can you invest in your business?
Mm.
The reason why I have Real Ventures as our sponsor for this conference that we're doing as a result of my trip to Colorado is because everybody that was there saw that I was ready to invest in myself. It cost me money to go over to Colorado to onto that program. People want to see that you believe in yourself. So being successful in business is about having faith and resilience. And if you don't have faith in yourself, why should somebody else?
Mm.
So that would be my tip.
Mm. That's brilliant. That's lovely. Well, thank you so much, Tony. That's really useful. You gave some valuable information there, and even through your ups and downs, it's all been a learning
It's all been
process
a
for
learning.
you as well as for us listening to you. So
Yeah. I
I
know
appreciate that.
I saw you deep in thought at times. So my
Yeah.
question to you is, are we gonna be able to edit this and put this out before the 9th of September so some of your people can come along to our event?
Yes, I will aim to do that. I'll try and get it up within a week. Okay.
Oh my days, that's fantastic.
I'll try to. Usually it takes me a month or two, but I will definitely
Oh
put
wow.
yours near the front of the queue, okay?
Thank you so much. And then remember to let us know who the person is that you want to come down and represent.
Represent us, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Can I just ask one more question? Do you have
Sure.
time for yourself, for hobbies, things that you do
Yeah.
which have nothing to do with money
So
or work or
yeah.
helping
So I
people?
mean, just earlier this month, not this month, sorry, earlier this year, I like I love singing, and one of our students put on a showcase night, and so they asked me to come and sing along, and I did a couple of songs, and I loved it, and we rocked the house. So I'm looking at doing some more of that stuff
Yeah,
later
it
on this
sounds like
year.
you should definitely do some more. Maybe sing some numbers at your conference.
Yeah, well, I think I did. I usually do. Well, let's see. Let's see if we can put a
Yeah,
little
and then when you
surprise.
when you also add your songs to Spotify, when you upload them for streaming, let's send us a link and we'll put it underneath this video, okay?
All right, we'll do.
So people can
All
go and
right,
listen to your talent.
fantastic.
All
Listen,
right.
appreciate you. Much
Love,
love.
lovely talking to you.
Likewise. Thanks for your time.
Have a great day.
All
Bye.
right. See ya.
Show me goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of my